So, Brian, my brother, how's everything with yourself?
Um, Doing wonderful. Doing wonderful. It's good to see ourselves again. I'm excited to get to know you and see what's going on in Bali over there.
Well, look, I'm excited to have this conversation with you, given the fact we're going through a bit of a global apocalypse at the minute. So, I think there's going to be a lot of
Sure.
value coming from your end that can really help people with this.
Absolutely. And also it's always internally their own value that they self-discover. I think we're um, just a form of a messenger that illuminates that within others. So I think listening to these conversations is key because there's so much other stuff you could be digesting as well. So someone like yourself to create a platform for human excellence or extraordinary deeds, I think it's really cool to lay a foundation of that so people can self-discover.
Brian, I appreciate that, mate. Dude, I'm so pumped to get into this, but there's one thing I have to jump in here with you. Now, I absolutely love going into depth and researching every single person who we have on this show, and I really feel that me and you have kind of lived a parallel life. However,
Interesting.
yours has been a little bit more amplified than mine. And I'd love to know, like, I see the message and all the stuff that you're putting out there. I think it's phenomenal. I see the people that you're helping and how you're helping them, which is great. But I want to know more about you because I think there's a bigger backstory here which can really connect the rest of this show. Now, for you, you were in the fitness industry, similar to myself. I know you
Yeah.
did the modeling thing, similar. I know you blew up, you did the whole actor thing for the red carpet moment, and it's gone from red carpet to meditation mat. I want to know the story of you because you fascinate me. So,
Yeah.
quickly, if we can sum up your story of how it brought you to where you are now and what you're doing. And I like to use the word in like the monks. I feel like you found Buddha. And I'd love to know how you got there.
Mm, mm, yes. And I feel like our own unique vehicles, it's our turn to, extend that hand to show like a roadmap, allegedly of where we're all going, where we all will actually end up. So, you know, and I say this every time when we go back to identity and kind of the experiences that have constructed the expression that I now exist from. And it sounds abstract, but the only way I can put it is that it's all part of the awakening. And there's something that energetically happens to you that is more profound and a long lasting experience that kind of restructures how you perceive the world. And ultimately, you start living from the purpose of oneness because of the experience and understanding of it. As far as like specific strategic moments, there's been an infinite amount. You know what I mean? I was blessed to have, a profoundly amazing, loving mother that, instilled those qualities in me. And, I had triplet brothers to compete with and to strategigize with. And I had a dad that
There's
was so
three
heroic.
of you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That is one.
That's,
That's going to be one amazingly beautiful family.
I mean, you should see my sister. We have a little sister, and she's just, purely an angel too. So, even having that human connection in regards to family and support, and the trust that anything I do that I know I'm loved. Those little things, and then you learn how to give that to others, and also learn how to simplify those truths. But for example, I mean, when we all start to awaken, which we're very well on our path. If you're coming across this podcast, if you're breathing, you're doing a wonderful job, and you're way farther along than you think. Um, we will start going back to our past experiences, and I'll give you an example. I wrestled for 10 years. That was my gateway to understanding flow state, to understanding pain, suffering, a transcendence of that. Giving it your all, pouring as much passion and effort into a simple thing as winning a match. I ended up going to college for it, and then throughout this whole time, I never necessarily really liked it. It was very hard for me to wake up every morning and feel excited about it. It was just something that I was inherently good at and that I practiced so long. That's all I knew. So until I was able to break free from that, um, then I was able to feel what it was to actually exist as a human. So instead of the autopilot mode, the subconscious, I'm just thinking the same thoughts every single day that's now dictating my human experience. I was able to go seek things that made me present. I was seeking the adventure of modeling. I was seeking an adventure of falling in love. I was seeking the adventure of pushing my mind to its limits and then feeling what it felt like to exist from the heart. And granted, you still don't really discover compassion until it's happened to you, and you just don't know the things that you don't know. So those moments were actually gifted to me early on. And I remember when I ran away when I was a kid. I was always running away, like, and always running away. And my friend and I, we were like 14 at the time, and we got in this car and we left, and we were like 2 hours away. we saw cops. We were hiding from cops, and then we ended up hitchhiking the rest of the way. And this guy picked us up in the car. And I remember he had a farm, and he had this cardboard box he lived in, and he worked at the farm. So he gave me a job at the farm, allowed me to live with him in this cardboard box on the side of the street. And I made friends with all of his family, and I thought it was like the most generous, nicest thing in the world. You know what I mean? So then,
Yeah.
it dissolved any idea that I had a class, race, religion, any expectations I had on what monetary things could actually bring good qualities through. It was just the soul and the soul, and it was something that I needed most. It was as simple as shelter by a cardboard box was there when I needed it. So it was those little moments of divinity, and knowing that I could do anything because I was always taken care of, no matter the circumstances, and that I was taken care of 10 years before, and that I'm taken care of now. And it gives you a fearlessness and trust that you could do everything, you know. And now it's about telling others that they can do that as well. So back to the wrestling thing, because I really want to say this, because this is something that I found out yesterday, and I wanted to share this on a platform. I'm really glad it's yours, because I know as an athlete you can receive this really well. So I flew to Ohio, and at age 15, I ended up living with my wrestling coach. I moved across states, lived with my wrestling coach. So he raised me for a year. He was wild. Wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, make me, run sprints, sit in the hot tub with him. We would philosophize. He'd tell me that, like, you have to put 116% effort into everything and, like, die trying, So I had this really, like, negative, positive reinforcement mentality.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, the amount of quality time and love he put into me, to the best of his ability, and even more than that, was really profoundly impactful. So he called me, after it's been about 3 years since, it was high school wrestling, college wrestling, and then this whole life adventure. And he saw the things that I was doing. He's like, listen, can I get you out here to teach the guys meditation, and put them through a workout? And he's teaching at the college level too. So I was like, absolutely. So I flew from here to Ohio, right? And this is the moment of my life, because it was 10 years of my life that I did not like. I really did not like wrestling. It was tough, man. Like, you know what I mean? I was losing 30 pounds like every single year. It was nuts. But I was really good at it as well. So it was interesting. So I had
totally feel you with that. Totally feel you.
Very unfun, but it taught me a lot. So through all that, this is grounded wisdom here. I was able to go back, right? I was able to go back to a version of myself and give them the wisdom that I acquired. I'm getting you the chills even telling you this. To be able to heal that aspect of myself, and also allow them to not suffer, or allow them to discover new ways of pleasure within that chaos. Okay. So I went there, and I ended up talking. I got a chance to speak to the college team, and then I went to the high school team, and I led them through like an hour and a half workout, and I mixed it, shamanic breath work. It was child's play for me, because I understand the structure of how kind of a workout should be formulated in regards to wrestling. So we had single legs, double legs, top and bottom, those kind of things that you do, but you mix it with philosophy of oneness, right? So I was like, all right, beginning of this practice, if there's anything that's going on with you, right, that gives you a negative feeling in your body, if there's any limiting belief, fear, any doubt that you can't do the exercise, what I want you to do is stop, go over to this whiteboard, and then write down the thing that's blocking you, right? And then when you do that, I want everyone in this room to cheer for you. Okay, and then we'll get back to work. So we were mixing these interesting philosophies into this wrestling practice throughout the hour and a half that I had these kids, right? And then also, just any moment I had with them, I was giving them as much love as I possibly can, to allow a new experience of that environment to be created, where it's like, I don't have to yell at you and traumatize you. I can open up space for your natural genius to flourish and prosper. So at the end of it, these kids were like, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I have cotton mouth, I have they were all writing these things up on the whiteboard, right? And I sat them down afterwards, and they did such a wonderful job. Like, I was actually profoundly impacted by how smart and it's just kids nowadays are just genius. So we sit down afterwards, and I'm like, this is my speech, you know what I mean? I'm like super stoked over waiting for this moment to do this with myself. And I was like, all right. We went through everything on the whiteboard, and I was like, all right, yeah, this is good, right? And I was like, all right. I was like, who felt thirsty, right? And I was like, thirsty. Who felt thirsty? And it was, this kid, 145 pounder. He goes, I did. And I was like, why did you feel thirsty? He's like, I was like dehydrated, blah 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 blah. I didn't drink enough water. I was like, all right, is there anybody else in the room that felt thirsty? Literally, everyone raises their hand. And then we went through every single thing that was going on in their minds and show the commonalities between all the kids and show that they were all going through the same thing, right? So then get this, they just had their sections tournament a couple weeks ago, and my coach calls me last night, and he goes, hey, just want to give you an update. We had one of our kids beat this ranked wrestler in the state because he said, I really thought about what you and Bryant taught me. He's like, I was dead exhausted and went to double overtime. I was dead exhausted and I could barely move. And I was like, wait. I was like, this kid's dead exhausted too. And I was like, it just gave me a shot of energy. I was able to beat him. But the main thing, it wasn't as much about winning or losing as an aspect of never allowing those kids never seeing the other kid as a loser. I was like, you want to be so sure that you're a winner in life that you don't have to project loser onto anyone because you're still putting yourself in that state of losing. I was like, you guys are good, you're invincible, you be present, and you're always prepared, and you always have what it takes. So like those little things that you say once, but since you understand from your own experience where their mental state is, those wisdoms and seeds are planted, and you see them flourish and come to fruition. So that was like a lot of different moments of thinking and heartfelt writing, and then I was able to go so that's kind of what came through.
That's absolutely incredible. I have to admit, I've never. That's such an amazing way of. I've seen and I've done a lot of these workshops where it's kind of like breaking down the thing that's in the way or running through the wall that's stopping you moving forwards, and that's such a brilliant, fearless way of doing it, where you can get the support with it as well. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. It's always, and it's as simple as allowing people to have a more cosmic perspective, right? So instead of asking powerful questions and helping them illuminate their own limiting perspective of worrying about the I, and then allowing the interest of everything that is. So if you can level up their perspective in any way and make it more expansive, their problems seem to just dissolve into nothingness, and they're able to really fully be present in the moment. So I like to stay with that structure.
Dude, that's absolutely brilliant. I'd love to know from this, is there kind of like for our audience and the people who are listening, obviously I can imagine now is probably a perfect time for people maybe to do the intro work and look a little bit inwards. And I love how many modalities you use in your practices. Now, the biggest thing for me has been breath work. I've done a lot of things like meditation, the self-inquisition work and all that sort of stuff to go on my own journey with it. But I feel like now we've kind of like hit this point where it's led to people can't hide anymore. Like right now in life, we can't distract. We've got to sit with our thoughts. There's only so much Netflix we can watch. And I really feel that even though the world's kind of falling to shit, so to speak, at the minute, I think this is going to lead to a big springboard for people individually and obviously what they want to do in life. Now, I'd love to know from you, because you do a lot of work with this sort of aspect and getting people to kind of really find out who they are, maybe change that identity, believe in themselves and go at it. Is there any exercises? Is there any self-inquisition work? Is there anything you would probably speak to those people right now to kind of help them through this period?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this period specifically is a wonderful time to be interested in yourself. A common discovery is who is the one that's breathing. What is the truth of your experience, and what does it mean to be you? And how can you use these tools to learn how to be yourself and be free to do so? I always say that's how you win this game, when you're able to just fully express whatever comes through and trust that if it's received or not, that because you have a foundation of love and compassion, it is good for everyone involved, because that is how you have programmed yourself to do so. You have purified your heart, you have expanded your vessel, and the energy that comes through you is something that benefits this world. So yes, there are many practices, and it does take time, but small shifts make long shifts. And every day, if you put a little effort into shifting your awareness, breathing compassionately, breathing emotions that serve you, and doing even conscious writing to figure out what are the things when I write it feels bad in my body. Where are the things that I can have new perspectives on to allow for a different experience in my world. So I would say, until you start realizing that you're co-creating your life consciously, you're living in a victim mentality, and you're subjective to your life's experiences and what other people are doing, and you're not exercising your free will. Yeah, and deep listening too. So there's I think deep listening is kind of like my favorite thing ever. Is just intuitively listen beyond your five senses, right? listen beyond the eyes, the nose, the ears, the touch, the taste. Listen with your entire beingness, connect to everything that is, and allow inhale and exhale to actually mean something, and see what happens when you feel good and how it is expansive, and then see how the heart can actually allow the transmutation of weaker energy into something stronger. So as far as practices they can do right now just to ground it, pay attention to your thoughts when you wake up in the morning. This is the time to rewrite your story. What song are you singing? Is it a negative song that is worried about something of the past or the future, or is it something that really makes you feel alive and you kind of feel like fuck yes and you're ready for the day? And then before you check your phone, before you even digest anything, see if you can cultivate that inner peace, revive yourself, refresh yourself, check in with yourself, be emotionally intelligent to what you need, because the more you can give yourself what you need, the more you'll be able to discover what the world needs. Simple things. But also very hard to do, because we think, our value is on the things that we're doing, but really our value is the state that we're coming from. And if we don't allow our vibration to be expressed through a vessel that feels good, then it's going to just create, things
Exactly.
that aren't as productive.
Brian, that's absolutely phenomenal. You just said something there at the beginning of that sentence, which really just kind of like struck home, which was learn how to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that that's a big thing, because a lot of the time we've become so distracted, we're not hearing that one voice which has been trying to speak to us for ages. So I really feel like a lot of the work that you do does kind of allow that intuitive voice to speak through, to learn and to build that relationship with who you actually are.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's interesting to say learn how to be yourself. Like, how could you possibly learn how to be you? Only you knows how to be you. But there's still an essence of a discovery process that is very delicious if you embark on that journey. Do I like this? Do I not like this? How does my body react to this? And you start getting really inquisitive. And then through the understanding of what you don't and you do like, you can start focusing on the things that you do like, because it is very, and I could say almost impossible to break old habits, just create new ones. And that's where your life goes, and the things that serve you and make you ready to go.
I can remember, if I look back through my own story, I think that the reason that sentence hit home so much then was that was literally the process. Was I had to let go of the athletic identity and XYZ identity and just actually go, do you know what? Who the hell am I? Like, at core level. So then it was a case of rebuilding those habits and actually working it out. So it's absolutely beautiful what you just said there. I'd love to know from you, has there ever been a period, because you've done a lot of things and done them extraordinarily well. Has there ever been that period with yourself where you've kind of become maybe, not necessarily the word lost, but disconnected or disaligned? Has there ever been that period with yourself where you're like, I'm not this person, and you've had to let go of it and move over? Is that
every day. Every day is a death and rebirth. That's the cool thing about life, is you can wake up completely different. Like, oh, nice. But as far as like the really dark stuff, which I think you're interested in right now, just to make it allow everyone to know that this is really part of the experience too, if we choose to learn from suffering. The reason why I was able to get into the things that I am now is because I went through so much of that darkness. But it's not even darkness; it's still good. It's just there's so much better out there when you're able to start focusing on that. And I would like to say, because of the modeling, the acting, and all these kind of other unique experiences that I created, I got so far into life that I started being habitually other people and other experiences, and attached to so many different things. Judgment on others, expectations on what I thought I deserved, all these kind of interesting things that if you look at the Buddhist way, it causes suffering, So I just acquired so much stress that it's eventually I had the tipping point of like, okay, if I don't take my life back now, I'm not going to have one to live. And I don't think all of us need that kind of punch in the face awakening, but I think it is a gift regardless of the form, and that it all comes in a very unique way to you. So the universe is always speaking to you. It's speaking through you, Simon, it's speaking through me, it's speaking through the sounds and the feelings in your body. And then when you're able to listen to that, you'll be directed to not only the healings that you've been seeking for, but also the grounded wisdom to start taking action from your heart.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love how you word things. You've got such an articulate fashion of bringing this out. It's incredible just to listen to it. But I just love with this, like, was the one tool for you which really kind of like projected you? I know for me, I was a very close-minded person, and breathing work would never, ever, ever, like half the stuff I do now, I would never have done it. Like, a part of me was just so set in his ways and closed-minded, he would just not given them the time of day. However, the biggest things that have made the impact for me has been like the breath work. It's always been the biggest thing for me that's really just a lot like it's driven home inwards, and now it's more a case of trying to implore people. I know you drive a lot of your energy and your efforts into that now, but is the one tool that's really kind of been a big game changer for you?
Um, Breathwork, meditation. If there's one thing you can do for yourself for your whole health, I really hope you decide to do that. It's you feel it almost immediately after. So um, it's just at this point it's common sense, because I feel like the world's creating all these experiences to allow people to finally adopt these things for themselves. The sad part is that there's sometimes a religious stigma to yoga or meditation, and then we have to break through the barriers of some of the things that are the healthiest for us to then allow us to be healthy. um, but I would say that the one thing, just to ground it, um, it's like a smorgasbord of things, but breath. I think so. Initially, what I did, because before I even knew how to meditate, I would just sit there with my eyes closed, and for about 3 hours, I would just sit there with all my thoughts, and I would just be like chaotically experiencing them. And I'm like, what the heck? I'd be thinking and I'd feeling, I'd be like, and I'd like be moving around and like moving around, like it's like that's the truth of it. Like I spent hours and hours just sitting alone with my thoughts, and then I finally figured out that they aren't me. And then I finally got it down to 2 hours where I wasn't identifying with my thoughts, and then maybe an hour, and then I got it down to like maybe 30 minutes. I'd sit in meditation and be there, and then finally, I'm able to like readjust and harmonize within fairly quick. But the breath work is a really fast way to clear those things out. So if you think of like a hard, heavy thought, there's nothing that the breath can't control. So they say that your mind is the king of the world, but your breath is the king of your mind. So with the intention of breath, you can try your best to pull your mind out of your body, even though there's an energetic map of that.
I'm going to kind of re-segment this a little bit. So number one, when it does come down to breath, the beautiful correlation we've had from all of these experts and authority leaders that we've had on the show is, and the main ones when it comes down to like your line of work and when it comes down to state change, it always ends up being a simple case of return back to breath. Like when you're stressed, notice your breath is gone. When you're anxious, your breath is gone. And it's the one biggest thing that you've always got control of. And I think that's one of the biggest things. But I'll come back to that with you, because the meditation aspect, which you just spoke about, was me in a nutshell. Like I genuinely think we have just literally lived the same thing.
I know. I was like, I said that for hours. Tell me about your experience. I want to hear about it.
Literally the mirror same. I just used to sit there and I was like, okay, I've got my eyes shut. I don't really know what to do now. And then I'd do the guided stuff and just listen to the guy and get annoyed at the person. So it was a mess. But it took me going to a lot of practices. Like for example, like living with Buddhist monks and stuff like that. I've kind of had the practices where once I understood why I was doing it, then I could kind of got educated around how to do it. I then got it. But what I was going to say is I feel like there's so many people right now in all of our industries, we're telling all of these people who are very close to meditation to go and meditate. And I think from my own experience, if I was to spend half an hour trying to go through what I went through of a year or 2 years of just, I think I'm doing it, I'm not doing it, and then finally getting the penny to drop, I think it's quite hard to do when you get the benefits. And I think you'd be an amazing person to speak about this. Like, what is the purpose of meditation? Like, we hear it all over. No one really tells us how to do it or why we should do it. So let's just break it down for the guys listening. So why is it important? What's the purpose of it?
Simply, it's to allow, a harmonization with everything that is, right? So you have a sense of peace, awareness, presence, intuitive guidance, connection to your heart. In regards to health, you are not physically responding to the world anymore, or reacting, more importantly, so you don't have stress hormones released in your body, cortisol, adrenaline, right? That messes up your brain function. Long periods of that actually really degrade your health. It's like the key to long life is to actually find this peace and meditative awareness throughout the day. So it's a myriad of some of the most profound benefits you can imagine just by taking a couple moments of self-love. As far as state changes go, because that's kind of what we want to acquire with meditation is, how can we change what I'm feeling right now, depression, anger, fear, into a higher vibration or a higher emotional tonality to raise my vibration, experience life in a different way. You're really, when you raise your vibration, you're perceiving new vibrations. You're perceiving a lighter, fun frequency. You're manifesting more fun, beautiful things for yourself and also for this world, and it affects us all. So I think underlining and understanding, not only being compassionate to others, but also compassionate to yourself. That's the benefits of meditation. So even if you want to embark on a spiritual journey where you're reading all this like esoteric knowledge and like about the Kundalini and sentient beings and divine experiences, you still won't be able to understand it if you don't cultivate the what they call garden of whatever you want to plant in it. So like when you use the breath, when you use the meditation, naturally you become spiritual. Naturally you become aware. Naturally you become more yourself, as we say, and then you start blossoming, like kind of like a flower, and you start becoming your own. You start doing things from the heart. You start knowing what to do. So yeah, I really hope people meditate. I think that's kind of why I teach it, because I found out of everything that I've ever done in my life that to be the most productive and helpful thing, like, and from my heart to everyone else's that's listening, it's as simple as 45 seconds a day. Coherent breath is 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. You can breathe in through your nose or your mouth and just focus on that breath for 45 seconds, and you'll notice a drastic difference. And yeah, I don't. You can speak on this. I just
Yeah, no, I know from my aspect with it, it was a case of I've always found like the biggest purpose for me is I find it very easy to just be in my life, like constantly drilling home in every single area. And I always found it was very hard to we say this in businesses as well. It's like you can be so hard in working in the business that it's very hard to go to 30,000 square foot and take a look over the business, like work out what's right, what needs to move. Does that make sense? So I think the biggest thing that I took from that practice was I was always trying to be the firefighter in my own life. Like things were always reactive. And when I actually was able to stop, take a moment, I was able to intuitively look over everything, go, do you know what? I'm not happy in this area. I'm not happy with this conversation. This didn't work. And it was only then I could start to move the little balls forward, so to speak, of the areas that weren't either doing well or work out what needed to change. And I think that was the biggest thing that I got from it. But being brutally honest, like a lot changed. Like for me, when maybe I find it so hard to get into that state because at the time I was trying to do it, I was so disconnected and I don't want to use the word broken, but I was in such a messed up place when I started to do it. I just wasn't like the thing, again, why you hit for me, learn how to be yourself. I think that's what it was. I think that's why another reason I found it so hard, because even though I was trying to go inwards, I think somewhere there was still trying to distract. It was like, yeah, what are you going to have for dinner? Like that would pop up. It's just like,
Or also like, why did I do this thing? Why can't I forgive this person? Why do I hate myself? Those are the things that are very sticky. And, it's to look at them like they're not good or bad. They just are. And we have to eventually face all our fears and make friends with it. The process of that is different for everybody, but through meditation, through breath work, it is a lot easier. So again, it goes back to like, am I going to be a victim of my reality, or am I going to start consciously constructing new perceptions of the world? Am I going to start allowing myself to think differently, allowing myself to heal in the way that I need to heal? So it's a form of becoming whole. And I never want to turn people off to the experience, because it's so much common sense that none of us need to be having conversations when we're angry. Like if I'm pissed off and you're pissed off and we're talking and discussing, like there's nothing that's going to be accomplished from that state. And your memories are triggered by what state you're in. So you're just bringing up every experience that you've ever had negatively into the now. When instead of like, all right, let's go do the breath work, let's meditation, take time for ourselves, allow ourselves to come from a grounded, like loving perspective and really be vulnerable, but also strong in what we want for each other. So, and again, it's like, do you want to take back your life? And just so you know, Simon and I are testament to the fact that, through tools, through your own self-discovery, that anything is absolutely possible. And it's not about acquiring wealth. looking sexy on Instagram. It's about you having happy to you being being able to express your love and being rewarded for it and doing cool things for this earth. So the human experience is absolutely magical and it is a miracle. And I truly believe if we're able to give gratitude for the small stuff, it will spiral into the biggest blessings you could ever imagine, and you could truly experience it all.
Definitely. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I really, really do. I'd love to tie this in as well with like bringing it from that aspect down to the breath work side of it. Now, a lot of people, again, we've seen it all over the show with breathing exercises. Wim Hof's obviously had his big boom this year, and there's just loads of different techniques and stuff being placed all over media and apps for all this sort of stuff. And again, I think we're kind of in that thing where there's a lot of stuff being pushed in front of us, especially to like the audiences and the people we speak to, but a lot of people don't actually understand why. And I think as well, given what's going on with the whole COVID-19, like getting air into your lungs, the immediate effects like breath work, cold showers, and XYZ has on your immune system as well. I think that's such a vital thing to go into as well. So I'd love to speak to you about the breathwork stuff as well, because I know you do some very different breathing techniques that I can assure a lot of people will not have seen on here. And I know it does get you into a complete state of bliss, quite literally, or getting high off your own supply, so to speak. But I'd love to know from an expert's point of view on this, like with regards to breath work, what is it doing? Why should we do it?
Yeah, so I always recommend people to experience going into, not only is it allowing you to transform yourself, it's allowing you to mutate into something that you always wanted to experience. So you're consciously constructing your reality with every inhale and every exhale, right? So the intention of how you breathe is the intention you're putting into everything. So it's literally the foundation of your reality. It's simple. Like imagine us right here, Simon, when I breathe you in and I give appreciation for your soul, and I exhale love to you, it's a completely different human experience. We're now spiritual beings experiencing what we truly want to experience in the now. So it's a form of manifestation. It's a form of taking back your health and living from a you first place. The first thing that you did was breathe. The last thing that you're going to do is exhale, And when you become a master of your breath, it's not like, oh, I can do all these breath modalities, because there is really a breath for everything. And when you start going down the discovery of breath, you'll learn that, breath for imagination, for presence, for power, for wisdom. There's all these kind of different breathing techniques. But really, it's just, am I breathing or am I not breathing throughout the day? And where am I breathing from, right? Am I breathing long inhales, long exhales? Am I present in the moment, right? When I'm not breathing, am I able to be aware of that in my body and then slowly make adjustments to get back into my breath? So when you make your breath your priority, you make your health your priority. Again, like all these people say, your breath it comes all down to your breath and then your body system and how it's being breathed. So if you think about it, everyone, I don't know if you heard this saying yet, but people say like breathe into your balls. Like, so breathe into the deepest that you can possibly breathe. Just like functionally, you can't actually breathe that deep. You can't breathe into your low abdominals. What you can breathe is the bottom of your diaphragm and the top of your thoracic cavity, right? So think of it as a container. And it has a lot to do with density. It has a lot to do with air pressure, but we're actually not the one actually breathing. So I can't tell you how much air I'm taking in. All I can do is make space for the universe to enter me. And then when I exhale, that air expels from my lungs. So the universe is always breathing us. We're just creating space humbly for this experience. So that is the one that's breathing. So it ties you down to an understanding that everyone is breathing the same particles of air that has ever breathed, and that every breath that is breathed will always be breathed by everyone that has ever been, or so that ever will exist. So it's a really intimate understanding of oneness that you start to embody through the breath. And I feel like those are the discoveries of when you're able to sit and breathe into every part of your body.
The immediate thing that just came to the front of my head there when you were saying about this is just immediately, I got a bit of a flashback to when I was back into athleticism. I got a bit of a thought of when I've worked with athletes and I've seen athletes perform at the best, and then when I've spent time with high performing individuals, millionaires or billionaires, when they're in a stress, like a tough situation. And the thing that just came to me then with what you were just saying is like when people really are present and they're in that moment, so to speak, is usually you'd expect an athlete at, say, the starting line of a 100-meter race. Like you'd expect them to be breathing like crazy before the trigger's even gone on the gun. I was then thinking about when I was an athlete, like I was high level at gymnastics. And
Cool.
when I think back, the same thing would have been there. And then when I think back to kind of like the business states, a lot of people would be breathing fast, but it's actually not. When you actually find the people that are great at what they do, like really fucking great at what they do, like when they're in that moment of like stress, or when they're in that moment of performance, or when they're just in that sheer, well, what literally when they are in the moment, the breathing pattern is just, it's long, slow, and
Yeah.
calm. It's not forced. And then what I was thinking of is how when we are actually in those stress states, when we are in those panicked states, or when we are in those overexcited states, so to speak, how we actually lose control of our breath. I was just thinking then
Yeah.
with exactly what you were saying then, it's just...
Those are all very good points. And as an athlete, it's good to know that you're not supposed to take big inhales and exhales. It's actually good to just get your breath back to normal.
Yeah.
And as far as, panic attack, which I don't like to use the word because it's just a misfiring of your body's operating system. You can use your breath, but also it's important to express the experience and not hold it in your fight or flight mechanism, or hold it as trauma in your body. So, there's different things that I think we've been trained to breathe wrong. That what I like to touch on for everybody that they can be aware of right now is, if you're breathing from your chest, your shoulder muscles are actually, coming up, and it's creating stress on your neck. And then that stress is releasing those stress hormones in your body. So you're having like doses 1,000 times a day. You're having little doses of stress, of the stress hormones that are entering your body that for a prolonged period of time can really, really be negative to your health. So again, it's not about like, okay, do this, crazy holotropic breath work and, rebirth yourself through releasing these traumatic emotions and experiencing these states again, which is still good if you want to go down that route. It's more important of like, all right, I'm present with my breath right now, and I'm restructuring how I'm breathing because of all the pain that I've held on to throughout this life experience so far is still physically attached to my energetic system in my body. So then through the breath, you can naturally release it. And then throughout the day, you can be more meditative and aware. So it's like, you want the consistency of your meditation. So for example, when you're meditating in the morning, let's say you do 30 minutes, ideally, that'd be great. You drop into a state of a sense of peace, of presence. You're aligned with your mission, your soul's purpose. You're really clear. When you open your eyes, you're going to navigate the day gracefully. You know exactly what to do. You're super stoked. You say, but then there's that one thing that goes wrong. You're like, how do I respond or react to this? If I react to this, that starts affecting me, and it brings me a little bit off balance. You know what I mean? And then do I take the time now to adjust that with the breath, right? Or do I keep going to the next thing that makes me off balance again, and I get a little more off balance energetically? Or do I take the time to sit there with the breath and rebalance? So it's people have to feel that state of peace once to then know how to get back there. So that's the cool thing about meditation is breath, is that it is a roadmap, your own internal roadmap to feel a state that will serve you. And then once you've discovered it, rediscovered it, I would say, it's easier to get back there yourself.
Incredible. I love how this whole episode is coming around, learn how to be yourself. And I love how it's bringing the first thing we do when we are here and present and given that gift of life is we take our first breath. And I love how we're just so distracted. We forgot how to breathe. We forgot how to move, and we forgot how to think. Or we've become so distracted, we forgot these basic principles. Where should people start? Like, is there an exercise, or could you give an example of something of maybe like a breathing exercise where people could start? Or
we'll let you guide this. What do you think? What would be a beneficial thing to you right now to be able to harness?
For me, individually,
we're all mirrored in the people that are listening with similar experiences and also wants.
So for me, it would be, clarity. Let's go clarity.
Clarity. Oh, love this one. Okay.
I think it's for me, but I think it's for everyone as well, to be honest. I think
for me too. More importantly, I'd love to do some clarity.
Are we doing this all for everyone, or ourselves?
Yeah. So clarity. Let's say clarity collapses in the now, when we're able to be present and grateful for everything that is, right? So what is the breath that we can bring clarity and infuse it with the utmost presence and gratitude? Philosophically, that'd be a really beautiful experience, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So what we can do is imagine putting your fingers on your shoulders. This is actually a breath from Dan Brule. You're going to love it. And all you're doing is you're taking big inhales into your chest, through your mouth. Exhale through the mouth. You're going to do about 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're going to start naming everything in the room. Okay. Water bottle, light, pen, book, this, you know what I mean? And you start naming everything in the room. You collapse everything in the now, right? You're aware of what is around you. You're right. You feel yourself with oxygen. You start being present with everything that is, and then the clarity that you need just exists. But what happens is we get consistently a veil put over ourselves that takes us out of the present moment. And clarity is a very, very simple thing to do if that is your main focus. So if you want to do it like a long period of time where, okay, I just want to master clarity, and you just do this breath, right? It is always there for you.
I love this. This is brilliant. This is brilliant.
It's not
such an amazing way. Would the intention with that as well be to name the things as fast as you can, or just as you go, like at your own pace?
Actually, probably slower. I think slower could be cool. Try that. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look at this beautiful pen. Actually, I wouldn't assign too much definition to anything, because we make everything up, and giving something meaning actually puts you in another false reality. So just name it as what it is, not for the sake of it being anything, but just to bring you into the moment.
Okay. So what was the breathing practice? Let's go through that.
Okay. So fingers touch your shoulders.
Yep.
So you're going to breathe in and out through the mouth. Big inhales in the chest, and then exhale through the chest. Name stuff. Book.
Rode microphone. I've got this amazing motion bottle, which was filled with heel tonic. Now it's filled with mineral water. Arctic Monkeys poster, which reminds me of home. I'm not at home. Studio lighting, really funky pillows, empty water bottles.
Okay, add another layer. Put your emotion into it. Put what clarity feels like in your body into the things that you say. That's the key part. Anything that you want to embody, you have to put that into the emotion and the experience. So how would clarity breathe right now? How would clarity speak?
Is in the specifics of it. So for me, it'd be specifics. It'd be laid down in the specifics. Does that make sense?
Interesting. So that's unique to your own. Try it.
So for example, like with the Arctic Monkeys poster, the first thing that came to my head then, the emotion was home. When I did the heel shake, it was health. So the thing, it was the anchor to what it was. For example, I was actually going to say, I've got a bag. I had a bag which was a bit of a present to myself. Like, it was something that I was like, do you know, if I get this, I'll get the bag. And that, the immediate thing, it's like gift to self. So it's like, which is there. Books.
So this is probably why you're craving clarity, is because when you see something, there's still a story attached to it. True clarity is it just is what it is, regardless of me thinking it's anything or giving any sort of meaning to it.
Oh,
So
this is so true. This is so true.
I mean, it's true as much as we allow ourselves to feel it. So when you focus on just the breath and not the actual, I guess you would say, logical point, right? It's just the breath, you and the breath. You can just breathe the clarity and be the clarity. So then you embody the quality of what clarity is instead of the actual action of what precedes it.
This is really weird. I've had a bit of a pop-up moment there. So my clarity is distorted by the story it still holds over it, allowing it just to be. Oh, that makes so much sense. Oh, there we go. Thanks for that.
Yeah, good.
Well, hopefully that's quite an amazing thing. Like that's the second time in a month someone's had me speechless on this podcast, which isn't great when you're running a podcast, is it?
No.
But the reason I actually chose that as well, because the biggest thing I've found with our audience is a lot of the messages and a lot of the feedback we get is people are just desperately searching clarity. But from obviously we're just going into that, is there actually the need to search for it? Whereas we're looking to place more things in, is it more a case of taking more things out, just as has been shown?
That's beautiful. Just like the breath, the more space I can create, the more I can allow and surrender love to come in.
Oh, well, amazing. Absolutely amazing. So for people who want to kind of like look into this work more, be it like learning how to be yourself, digging into more mental meditatory states, learning how to breathe. Obviously, following yourself would be an amazing place for people to start. But are there certain teachers, or because I know you go really in depth with a lot of these things, like the deep layers of it. Is there
Yeah.
any good books? Is there any good material where people who may have through this period of chaos gone, do you know what? I'm going to start doing more things myself and rediscovering more about myself. Is there any material, workshops, people, authorities that you advise people should look at to maybe put the foot through the door and just have a look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say to find your own really simple morning practice, the Art of Living has a kriya called Sudarsha Kriya, and it's breath work, meditation, and a little bit of oming. But it's really effective to start your day off correctly. So to be able to take this time to master that and make it part of your day, that will be world changing. Highly recommend that. As far as books, if you're interested in sci-fi, I think Strangers in a Strange Land is a really great book. If you've read any of Thea Alexander, she wrote a book called 2150 AD, and it's about this gentleman that goes to sleep and he wakes up 100 years in the future, and he has to go through all these spiritual initiations to be able to stay there. And if he doesn't grok or become these certain attributes, he has to go back to his old reality. Another cool book is The Kinabata Are Waiting for You by Dorothy Bryant. It's about this gentleman that murders this woman, and he runs off on his car, gets in a car crash, and again he wakes up in another world. And then through this world, people dream, and their dreams build out their foundations of the structure of the environment they live in. So just I like to mix like grounded wisdom with like sci-fi and like abstract theory, so people can start seeing the world with their own imagination and understand that they're constantly creating it, and they can put their imagination in anything. So again, take back your life, give yourself the power, and just if you're curious in something, that's your soul calling out for it, and just following the bliss, following the feeling that feels right.
You amaze me as a person that you're always ready. Like you're always, does that make sense? Like the tiger's poised, just ready to pounce at things. Like even the way you answer questions and stuff like that. It's like you're constantly in high performance mode. What obviously I know we're going into all this sort of stuff that kind of gets you there. And I think this really does radiate into everything you've done so far.
Good question.
In life.
I know where you're going.
Yeah. I'd love to know like how do you keep in that state? Like, because you just ready, trigger pull, and the energy follows it very quick.
Let's say state is, I would say, and this is philosophy, but state is most important when you're specific on your soul's purpose and that action is being carried out as an experience. Follow me on this. For example, I decided that my soul's purpose and my passion is speaking, and laying these breadcrumbs, speaking to audiences and deeply listening to their needs and allowing them to be my own, to come up with unique wisdom. But how can I allow my state to be the most, I would say, effective but most pure, to allow that wisdom to come through, right? And what are the things that I do to get there? So very simple things. If I'm speaking, and this is a grounded experience, granted you're always fulfilling your soul's purpose no matter what in every moment, but you're consciously creating with source, using your free will to have these things exist. So public speaking engagement, right?
Yep.
When I wake up in the morning, if I allow myself to think one negative thought, right, I'm doing the people I am speaking to an injustice. Right? If I'm not doing my breath work and my meditation, I'm not coming in clear when I'm on that stage, I'm doing everyone an injustice. So you just start taking your role in this earth seriously, and you start giving it meaning, as much as that can sound crazy, because it's still a choice, and it could bring you more suffering because you're creating a level of care that could lead to an attachment. But you just always bring yourself back to the presence and know that there's an infinite amount of love to be expressed through you, and you're never going to not be able to have that for yourself if you allow that to be your reality. So I always say, what we most want, we most have to give, and you're eternal, babe. So live the life you always want.
the thing that's just jumped to my head there is, like, again, in this topic, learn how to be yourself. I always find people really struggle with that. What is my purpose? What is my soul's purpose? Why am I here? And if I just think back to my story and kind of listening into yours and taking bits from different people who I've spoke to, I really think that in learning how to be yourself, or coming back home, so to speak, that's where your purpose lies. I really do believe that. And I think for my own thing, it was when I did that, I was like, no, this is genuinely what I'm here to do. These are the things that light me up.
Yes.
So,
Look at
yeah.
look at how good that sounds when you say it. I feel that. I'm like, yeah, Simon's here to do that.
I'm just taking what you say and condensing it. So there you go, bullet points. we can go with this.
Help me with my book.
I love it. I
We'll make
absolutely love it.
it.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, have you got anything to add to that? I find that is a big. I find a lot of people get lost, or they go after. I always bring this up on interviews. My dad, very very like driven entrepreneurial chap, and he always brought me up with a saying. So from a very young child, I was always heard this saying, which was never go into businesses, partnerships, relationships, social circles, affiliations with people who don't know who they are, what they want, or where they're going in life. Because everything that person will do will always be a short-term need to mend what's where there's no direction. It'll always be a short-term grasp or a clutch at a straw. And I think that, again, when you don't really know what your purpose is or why you are here, you tend to fulfill your life with those meaningless efforts or pursuits. So I'd love to know your stance on this. Like, when it does come down to purpose, I really do feel there is an epidemic of people who really don't know. And I was that person. I didn't know why I was here. And I really struggled when I was there. So have you got anything to add on that? Like with regards to finding purpose, finding meaning and more? So that I think once you've got that in place, then you can create a life of intention.
Yeah, I would say, you know, you can program your subconscious to ask yourself questions to help you discover it quicker. You know, we're only allowed to have a certain amount of information come into our brains at a time. So when you ask yourself questions, it programs your reticular activating system that then allows you to start perceiving new things that will serve you in discovering what that identity is, what that soul purpose is. It's a very beautiful day when you're able to ground that realization. No matter what, you are always fulfilling your soul's purpose and what you chose to come here to do. So find the grace and the ease in that sensation, because it's important to know that you are perfect in a way, and that everything is a divine and perfect order. Even though it sounds, how could that possibly be when my whole world is like this? It just is. And when you're able to love what is, you're able to love yourself. And then through that love will be a creation that will excite you, that will light you up, and will be so simple that one day someone will ask you what your soul's purpose is, and you'll just be able to explain it, kind of like how Simon did. And that's your sovereignty here on earth, and that's inherently your gift that is in every single person here. It doesn't hide from one. It is there. So I would say the breath work and meditation to go along with that would be, if you can imagine 7 feet in front of you, or even as far as front as you possibly can imagine, and you start breathing in through the nose with your eyes closed, past space and time. And as you inhale through the nose, you feel this energy travel inwards to you. And as that energy comes in you, when you breathe, the energy from your root chakra, right, it's where you'd be sitting down, that energy rises up to your heart. So this is how you connect to your intuition. It's a very powerful tool to be able to release the constructions of the mind, because that's kind of what this all is. Even this conversation is limiting you to finding your own soul's purpose. These tools will enhance you to be able to allow space for that purpose to naturally arise.
Incredible. I just love how you say things. It's just so articulate. And then the last little thing I kind of want to go into before I kind of start. I really want to respect your time, so understandably it's late where you are. But like I was trying to say before, I was very closed. Like I was a very closed book with all of this sort of stuff. And I always think the more closed you are from this sort of stuff, it's the thing that you need the most. So where would you say that for people who might have listened to this and gone like, oh, that's a bit too much, do you know what I mean? I'm not kind of into that sort of stuff. What would you say, the biggest thing there? Is it just a case of just give it a go? And I know for me, it took about 4 years, and it was the best thing I ever did was when I started to do it. So
here's the thing. As much as it's up to us, it's not up to us. All we can do is, love and plant seeds, and then they have this beautiful experience that naturally happens, that they'll discover it on their own. So the good thing is that since we're all one, and whatever that means to you, they're still living out their life in their own unique way, and it is very important that they do so. And eventually they'll come back home, they'll come back to themselves, and they'll come back to that deep truth. So.
It really is the hero's journey, isn't it? The hero's journey of coming back home. Yeah. Period. But look, we always ask these couple of questions. I'd love to know from your angle what they come up to just to round this up. But For you, Brian, like you've done a lot. You're not even a quarter through your life, which is still absolutely phenomenal. But I'd love to know for you, if you could pick a moment in time, if you could think back to a childhood memory when you were in your cardboard box, so to speak, and you could walk over to that youngest version of yourself in the cardboard box. You could take a knee next to him. You could grab Brian's little hands. You could look him dead in the eye, and you could speak one message to help that younger version of yourself through life. What would you say?
Beautiful, so beautiful, and the times that I've actually done that as a process has been very impactful. So I highly recommend anyone that's listening to this for them to do that for themselves. Um, I would look into his eyes as if they're my own. There's not really much to say as much as there is to communicate love through our body, through our expression, through our entire being, to really deeply listen to what that other soul needs, and then just look in their eyes like they're your own. And through that, massive amounts of healing and understanding actually occurs. So
incredible, absolutely incredible. And Brian, last but not least, mate, what does it mean to you to be able to lead a nourished life?
Ooh, cool. Consciously consume, speak from the heart and to the heart, and I would say just being loving service to life every day.
Simple, sweet, love it. And then, look, is there anything you want to round up on? Like, you've got a platform here to put a message out to the world, so over to you. If there's anything you want to end up on, especially during this time of chaos.
Yeah. Samuel, I just want to say thank you so much for where you're creating from, and I want this to be an inspiration for everyone to know that they can create businesses and projects like this, projects that are good for themselves, good for the planet that you can be rewarded for, and that will really light you up. So that is always there for you. I think that's the most important thing. Like within this time, figure out what is that thing that's good for it all. If I could leave you with one thing.
There's so much in there that you could speak.
No, but it's always the one thing. Like, where's my ego, and where would I think the one thing is the thing that you need to know? I would say allow yourself to come into your own wisdom, and that to naturally be your reality, and to know that you'll, as much as we're talking about being yourself, know that you'll be celebrated for being yourself. I'm gonna say that again. Know that you will be celebrated for being yourself. I think that's a good one.
That's an absolute brilliant one. Absolutely brilliant one. Brian, where can the world find you? Obviously, we'll put it in the show notes, but where do you hang around online? Where can people take a bit more of a look into what you do?
I would go to Instagram, Bryant Wood TV. We have conferences, online meetups, that kind of thing that you can all be a part of, and it tends to be free. There's also, we can do one-on-ones if you're interested in that. My thing is, if we're doing one-on-ones, I want to be able to give you the tools to be able to do it on your own, within a couple sessions. So I think that's important. And, go support a nonprofit.
Always.
Important.
But Brian, look, dude, acknowledgements. You've done a lot in life, and you've not just done it half-heartedly. You've made your way to kind of the top on quite a multitude of ventures, which is extremely inspirational. But obviously through researching you, getting to know you more, and obviously having an amazing new connection, I think it's phenomenal on your own hero's journey of where you've been and what you've come to, and how it's now become about service. So I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and to see you speaking from those places, and it's just incredible to hear where you speak from. It's such a rarity to hear kind of it's immediate, if that makes sense. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the show. So thank you.
Yeah, Simon, you got a big mission, man. I'm looking forward to all the things you create for this earth.
We're just getting going.